But the weird thing is, the better I feel with my chronic illnesses and all my symptoms, the more depressed I get. And actually, I never really felt depression before I started improving. So that's weird, right? It's really counterintuitive. I should be feeling happier and more excited the better my chronic illnesses are, the better that I feel. But it's actually the opposite.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about. Wait!
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boy.
My health's doing a lot better today, so I'm down here by the beach. Eczema is doing great. Just had a dupixent shot yesterday, and asthma's doing great. I'm basically just eating beef and potatoes, so my overall inflammation from food allergies has come down a lot. But the weird thing is, the better I feel with my chronic illnesses and all my symptoms, the more depressed I get. So that's weird, right? It's really counterintuitive. I should be feeling happier and more excited the better my chronic illnesses are, the better that I feel. But it's actually the opposite. I've been wanting to talk about this for a long time. That the better my health gets, the more depressed I get. And actually, I never really felt depression before I started improving. So I was born with 3 severe chronic illnesses, and all my life it just went downhill. From the day I was born, it just got worse and worse. And things didn't really turn around until I was about 27 when I found my research doctors in Utah. Even though I've been working with them for about 10 years, 11 years, it's only the last 2 years that dupixent has really made big leaps of progress with my illnesses. Yeah, my skin has been much better before that, but it was only because of using immunosuppressants that kind of mask it, and I can't even stop the immunosuppressants for even half a day without my illnesses flaring up a lot. And I still eat, and even with dupixent, I need the immunosuppressant cyclosporine to keep everything calm and deal with the food allergies that dupixent doesn't help with. The reason I'm depressed is because feeling well is not normal for me. And this might be a little bit hard for you guys to comprehend if you develop chronic illnesses later in life, or even if you were born with it, maybe you had like a little lapse in between, or you slowly got better, and then maybe sometimes in your adult life, those illnesses came back again. For those of us that were born with chronic illnesses and have experienced this our whole lives, this is our life. And normal life, whatever that means, is really, really hard for me to deal with. It's sort of like you guys who have developed chronic illnesses later in life, like that whole reality shift of realizing that your life is not going to be the same again. That's what I'm dealing with as I slowly get better with immunosuppressants and dupixent and all these other treatments that I'm trying. Whatever you think of as a normal life, for me is an abnormal life. It's it's just completely disorienting. And I learned about this when I heard an older gentleman from my church talk about him becoming a paraplegic after getting in a surfing accident. And the way he described his experience of going into depression and having to relearn how to deal with every single thing in his life, that's what's going on with me as I heal and improve and get better. Everything around me is suddenly different. I need to learn to be, I need to learn to go out during the day. I even need to learn to go out of the house, which is super scary, even though I'm not reacting as much. Like, I don't need my mask all the time, but I'm constantly looking at every single person's hand to see if they're holding a cigarette, and when somebody passes by me, I and paying attention to the odors on their body, whether if it's a cigarette smell or if they have pets or if it's some kind of a perfume or even lotion. I'm just super aware of everything around me. I'm not experiencing normal life as you guys would. It's just a very weird experience and perspective that I would have thought that getting better would help my mood and lift my spirits, and actually it's been the complete opposite. And it's just a really weird experience where my whole life I was looking forward to getting better, or at least improving enough that I could have a normal life, whatever that means. And as I'm slowly getting tiny tastes of it, the more depressed I get.
Boy, a second ago you couldn't wait to get off this plane.
I know. Feel freedom, I guess.
I'm just being overwhelmed by more things that I have to deal with while I'm still dealing with my chronic illnesses and all of the changes and little steps of recovery. And I don't even think that's the right word for me, because recovery assumes that you've been well at some point in your life and you have that baseline or normalcy that you're trying to get back to. Well, I've never had that. So every step of this improvement process, I'm just going to call it improvement, every part of this improvement process is completely life-changing in a disorienting and confusing way for me, because every little change of being able to go out or being able to be under the sun without my skin just completely disintegrating, being able to travel, all of those things is really disorienting, and each step that I get slightly better, it's like all of that changes again, like the kind of people I can be around and not react, or the time of day that I'm up. A lot of times I'm totally nocturnal, so seeing sunlight is really disorienting for me. And one of the reasons why it's psychologically challenging to improve is then you have something to lose. I've never had that before because of just how extreme all three of my chronic illnesses are. People are like, oh, you should try to avoid this and that, or you should try this diet or that diet. I can't, because I'm literally allergic to all foods on a scale that's higher than what labs can test for. It's basically off the charts. And so avoiding one food or the other, or avoiding going outside versus staying indoors with a mask on, it doesn't help all that much, because there's still millions of other things in the world that I react to. But now that I'm slowly getting better and have a lot of those reactions subside a bit, and I can enjoy coming outside without being bombarded by a million things affecting me, then it does get scary. You do have something to lose, and I can't understand more of why you guys are just developing your chronic illness, why a lot of you guys are freaking out and being really scared of losing everything, because there is a lot of amazing things in life that you can lose, and it's just that I never had that before, so I didn't really comprehend what's out there. Like, I still don't comprehend what most of the foods are. You guys feel bad for me that I can't have a birthday cake or just can't have chocolate or anything. Well, I don't know what that tastes like. So does it really matter? Like, there are foods that you've never heard of, so you don't feel bad about missing out on them because you never had them before. And actually, for me, like, I've tasted tiny bits of cake or something, just trying it, and those are the most horrifying experiences ever, because I just started choking, immediately went into anaphylactic shock, and my body just swelled up, and there's inflammation even inside my brain, and my skin just completely peeled off and exploded basically, and boiled off within a couple minutes. The only experience I have with those foods that you guys are afraid to miss out on I don't really care, because the only experience I have with those are negative or bad. They're just like poison to me. Like, would you feel bad about missing out on poison? Not really. To me, that's what cake is. To me, that's what milk or chocolate is. I can even smell those things and react to them. So another source of the depression has been because I thought as I get better, I would be normal. I just had this fantasy of what normal is, and being able to do normal people things. But now that I get to do them, I don't really feel like it was all hyped up to be, because all my chronic illnesses had already taught me life lessons and basically wired my brain to think differently and experience things differently than everybody else. Because I have lived with chronic illness my whole life, my whole perspective is just different. Like I said, I don't have that normal experience that you guys have that you want to get back to. So all of this normal stuff is foreign to me, and I'm not really sure I like it all that much. You know, I'm used to doing a lot of stuff on my own. I love being around people, as you can tell, but I also love doing a lot of stuff on my own. Going out and partying and hanging out with a lot of people, that still gives me a lot of anxiety. I'm constantly worried about what kind of perfume and things they have in their body, and I'm still super sensitive to sound and even light, and just being around a lot of people in crowds. Even though I'm used to that, I wouldn't call that anxiety, because it's all I really know. I guess a lot of you guys have asked if I feel anxious, and I don't think I do, but it is an extra stressor that I have. I just prefer to do stuff on my own. And when I first started getting a little bit better and being able to go out and hang out with people, I thought that would make me happy, but it didn't. It was just very weird for me, and just had to discover what I truly wanted to do, regardless of anybody else, regardless of whatever illness or symptoms or limitations I had. And it was an interesting journey, but it was just depressing in that I had this fantasy about what getting well would mean, and it didn't turn out to be like that. So that was another disorienting experience that I had to go through. So when I realized that the normal life wasn't for me, and I just had to let go of that fantasy or ideal, it's like the whole world crashed down on me. And that also happens every single time that I have to deal with a lot of physical changes of improving, but it's still the world shifting in more ways than my brain can handle at one point, and it just takes a while to figure out what the difference between the actual reality versus my supposed imagined ideal, and try to find a balance of what's actually true for me and what's the life that I want to live. Another problem that you have when you start to improve is your purpose in life isn't obvious. When you're constantly fighting for your life, every single moment is really clear. That's all you need to be doing. Like, you know, I did a video about keeping yourself busy and keeping your mind occupied, because that's what I do. Like, I constantly have to focus on my breathing, and so I don't worry about anxiety and stuff, even though, like I said, I guess technically when I go out, I have more anxiety of more things to deal with. But I'm so focused on dealing with those things and just breathing in and out, especially with my asthma that's never really stopped for my whole life. I'm constantly having an asthma attack. So when that happens, I need to work really hard to control my breathing, my lungs, my chest muscles, so that I need to do that to be able to breathe. And I don't really have the mental capacity to do anything else. But when you're healthy, when you have had enough sleep, when you don't have one crisis after another to fight, and when you're not constantly thinking about, okay, I need to be prepared, so if I have an emergency this moment, do I have all my meds? How am I going to get to a hospital? What's the best route to take? That's what I'm usually thinking when I'm driving a car. I'm not, just daydreaming about whatever. So the purpose of life is obvious, and I guess that's one of the reasons why I like watching war movies and military movies. It's not like I'm a war junkie or like death. It's because people in those situations are something that I relate to, because I'm constantly fighting for my life. When you're doing that, survival is the only thing. You don't care about what you like, what you don't like, what somebody else said about you. None of that stuff matters. You're literally just fighting for your life and doing the things that make that possible, and planning ahead so that you don't get yourself into trouble, and constantly thinking about what the threats and dangers are. And I guess that's where a lot of the PTSD comes from people who have been in war and came back. When they're in war, they say it's very obvious that you're just trying to stay alive and you're just trying to keep your buddies alive. And when you come back to, what kind of cereal should I get, or reality TV stars, and worrying about that, or having road rage, like when you've been fighting for your life every single second of every moment of every day, road rage and cereal and reality TV just does not matter. And coming back to a normal society where that's what most people are talking about, that's what most people are worried about, that's what gives people stress, and it's just impossible to relate to that kind of a reality. I just want to end with one final thought. The final reason why I'm feeling more depressed the better I get is I'm just realizing how much of normal life, real life, that I still need to learn. And it's like fighting for, I'm 36 now, so I'm fighting for 36 years of climbing out of hell and battling through every single day, every single moment of my life. And now that I'm sort of seeing the light at the top of the tunnel, or the cave, or wherever I'm climbing out of, and I'm slowly starting to see enough of the outside world, and when I peek out through this hole to the outside world, to normal life, I'm seeing that I'm at the bottom of the valley, at the bottom of Mount Everest, and there's just this whole other thing that regular people have to deal with for battling through life, and I have to climb over Mount Everest after having fought for every moment of my life just to get out of hell. And I'm still not there yet. If you guys are in my situation of my severity, you guys would think it's the worst ever. You see how much I improved, and you think that I'm feeling better, and relatively I am, but I'm coming from a place where, like it said, I'm probably the top 5 most severe eczema and allergy people in the world. When they first gave me a skin test, and it was just like a tiny scratch on my arm when I was 2 years old, my whole body swelled up and I was going to shock, and the doctor had to tie off my arms to prevent the allergic reaction from getting to my heart. I'm literally like an unstable atomic bomb ready to go off at any moment, and there's all this stuff going on inside of me. So I've heard a lot of people complain about how bad they're feeling, and honestly, like, I haven't shared everything that I've gone through, but like the worst case I've heard from other people complaining to me is maybe 5%. I'll be generous to say that's like 10% of the worst I've gone through, but it's probably like 5%, and most of you guys aren't even 1% of the severity of things I've gone through, especially because I have, like I said, I have multiple diseases. It's very different when you have 3 severe deadly chronic illnesses versus just one, and when all 3 of those are off the charts, the most severe that people have ever seen, it's very different from just having like a really, really severe but not an extreme. So, I thought through all that, and now looking at real life and thinking of all the things I still need to learn to live on my own and even just get through a day, dealing with relationships and all the things like that. It's just, it kind of blows my mind of, I just don't really want to deal with that, and that makes me tired and depressed as well. So there's a lot of things I'm going through on this improvement journey, and I guess I'll share them along the way.